Also, I wanted to talk today about the Tarp. There's been much in the news regarding some of the banks, Citibank, J.P. Morgan, Bank of America, who have either moved to repay, have already repaid their Tarp money, and the government is touting this as some evidence of success of the Tarp program because these banks are able to pay it back. Well, number one, this assumes that the banks aren't going to need the money again. First of all, the reason that the banks can pay the money back is, number one, because the government changed the accounting rules so they can pretend a lot of their assets on their books are worth a lot more than they really are. And so that puts them in a position where they can afford to pay back the TARP money. But the earnings that have made a lot of these repayments possible have come from free money from the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve has loaded up all these banks with free money. They've taken it and made some very risky bets that have thus far paid off. And they took a lot of risk with taxpayer money, knowing that if the risks didn't pan out, they could always get more bailout money. The risks did pan out, so they're lavishing record bonuses. And I think Goldman Sachs, J.P. Morgan, and Morgan Stanley, all three companies, are going to be making record bonus payments this year, even bigger than at any point before the bubble burst. And all this is because of this cheap money. And so what is the consequence of these banks being able to pay back the TARP money? The consequence is the banks are even more leveraged now than ever before, so that the next time they fail, they're going to need even more money from the TARP. And of course, the Federal Reserve's balance sheet is loaded up with toxic assets that were purchased from these banks. So when the government is claiming that the losses aren't nearly as bad as we think, that's only because the Fed hasn't tried to unwind these trades. The minute the Fed tries to withdraw the stimulus and sell these toxic assets, then we'll see how much we lost. Who knows what, if anything, the Fed will be able to get if it tries to sell these assets. I mean, talk about counting your chickens before they're hatched. And one of the funniest things about this, the TARP money, is some of the Congress or senators are claiming that since the TARP is not going to cost as much as we thought, or since some of the banks are paying back the money, that we should use this windfall in jobs programs to create jobs. As if this is actually a windfall. We don't have this money. This is money that we were going to borrow, that we're now not theoretically going to borrow. It's not like the money is actually there. There's nothing to spend. This is no peace dividend like from the end of the Cold War. This is money we were going to borrow from the Chinese that now we might not have to borrow. So should we then say, well, since we're not going to borrow it for one reason, we should go and borrow it for another reason? This is insanity.